So, Tony, what's it looking like?
Well, we still have a weak ENSO event in progress. It got even weaker just recently. The sea surface temperature departure from normal has dropped all the way to plus zero point 0.5 degrees C in the Nino 3.4 region, and that's the lowest that we'll call a weak El Nino. Any lower, we call it warm neutral. So we're really on life support here. And to make things even more critical, the supply of heat from the subsurface heat content, the temperature of the water below the surface, has gotten lower. It's been above average for about a year, way above average, and now it's just barely above average. So if we didn't have any models to look at, we might think the event is about to die. It's going to die in the next few weeks. But that's not what most of the models are saying. In fact, they're saying a little bit differently, which I'll talk about in a minute. But first, Weston has some ideas here about what's been going on also.
So is any of that related to the recent MJO event? So recently there's been strong westerlies right around the date line that we expect to cause a downwelling Kelvin wave that would reinforce these El Nino-like anomalies and possibly sustain the event into the summer or even the fall. But so far, as Tony mentioned, there's been just a complete depletion of the subsurface heat content, and there's not a strong indication that this is reversing, at least yet, in the observations. So, as Tony mentioned, without models, this event looks like it's dying or dissipating. But the models seem to indicate that it's continuing to persist. And how far is that looking? Into the summer, into the fall?
Well, the models are saying, well, first of all, they haven't acknowledged that we're down to the minimum El Nino level. They still have it, they assume 0.7, 0.8 positive anomaly, not 0.5. And they're saying that that's going to continue for the next few months and very gradually weaken into the fall and approach 0.6 or even down to 0.5 by the end of the year. Now, a few of the models are saying it's going to die in the next month or two, but most of them don't. Most of them say it's going to live for another 2 seasons. And some are saying it's going to be above the weak threshold, but those are outliers. The ones who say it's going to die are unusual. There are only about 3 or 4. And the ones who say it'll be more than weak, only a few. Most of them are saying it'll continue weak. And we still do have El Nino conditions in the atmosphere, but only one atmospheric variable is showing it clearly, and that is the convection pattern, the thunderstorm activity, which still shows a maximum right around the date line. And that induces upper atmospheric heating that keeps the circulation patterns going that support El Nino. But is it going to last much longer? It can't run without fuel. So that's the question. Do you think if this MJO event does materialize, it already has in terms of the westerly wind event, but if we get a Kelvin wave, that should reinforce the sea surface temperatures as it moves eastward and supply the subsurface with additional heating that would sustain the event for another 5 months or longer. So the models should know better than we do just using our eyes looking at maps. So our official forecast, we still have an El Nino advisory, and our forecast shows the probabilities of keeping an El Nino are about 70% for the first month or two, and then they drop slowly toward 55% by the end of the year. Remember, we're in the Northern Hemisphere spring predictability barrier. That's not over until June or July. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. So we have a very middling probability, not much above 50, combined with the fact that we're in the spring barrier still. That makes things very iffy. But we have to go by our models, or else we're not scientists, right?
Right, absolutely.
And so we're sticking to our forecast for the El Nino to maintain a weak level going through fall and, well, definitely, not definitely summer, but most likely summer. 70% chance for summer, 50 or 55% for the fall. And with that comes the climate forecast associated with it. And
So what parts of the forecast look El Nino like? We have projections for dryness in Indonesia, in
Right.
Central America,
Right. Caribbean.
Eastern Australia, the
Yes,
Caribbean.
yes.
We've also got some wetness in Eastern Africa,
Mm-hmm.
but there are many precipitation anomalies other than that that don't look El Nino.
That's right. They're caused by other sea surface temperature anomalies. In the Indian Ocean, we have a positive Indian Ocean dipole, which means the sea surface temperature anomalies are above normal in the western part of the Indian Ocean. And that gives Eastern Africa a better chance for above average rainfall. And there are other anomalies going on. The Atlantic, in the tropical Atlantic, it's pretty weak, so not much going on there. Overall, it's not a very strong climate forecast, except for these hallmarks of El Nino, like in Indonesia and Eastern Australia, and those are foreboding for them. That's not looking good. It's been dry in those places already, and it's supposed to be continuing according to this forecast.